On April 26 of 1964, Dora Fronczak and her husband, Chester Fronczak, had their first child by the name of Paul. A woman dressed up as a nurse took their baby from the Chicago hospital. The woman was never seen again. Only the next day did the hospital inform Chester and Dora that their baby was missing, and the police was called. The case got a lot of media attention, and it led to a massive FBI investigation. Even though they searched for a year, they came up with nothing. Then, around 14 months after Paul disappeared, a baby was found in front of a department store in Newark, New Jersey. An FBI agent heard about this. There was no blood samples or fingerprints taken from Paul, so they had no idea whether this baby was him or not. There was, however, one photo of Paul. The FBI agent found that the ear of Paul and the ear of the baby that was found looked similar, and took the baby to Dora and Chester Fronczak. Dora and Chester did not know if it was their baby or not, but there was so much media attention on them, and they were scared that if they sent the baby back, that it could have been Paul. So they raised the baby as Paul Fronczak. When Paul was 10 years old, he found news articles about the time he was kidnapped. Ever since then, it was a nagging thought in the back of his head. He noticed that he looked different than his family members and had totally different interests. Eventually, when he became a father, he decided to act on his suspicion and find out the truth. After sending in his DNA sample, he found out that there was no chance that he was actually Paul Fronczak. He then had two questions. Who is he really? And where is the real Paul Fronczak? He contacted genetic genealogist C.C. Moore to help him answer those questions. They learned that his real name was Jack Rosenthal. He also learned that he had a twin sister that also went missing by the name of Jill Rosenthal. Yes, they did name the twins Jack and Jill. That answered one question, but raised another. What happened to Jill? Paul's new family provided a few clues. His real parents abandoned Jack, and Jill disappeared sometime later. His parents was going through a separation during that time, and both of them passed away in the 1990s due to cancer. In December of 2019, the real Paul Fronczak was found. His children heard of the case and was sure that it was their dad, and it turned out it was. All we know is that he lives in Michigan with his family. He does not want to be known. Flora was born in 1939 in New York. After she finished school, she worked at a Concord for a few summers. The Concord was a resort with more than 1,200 rooms. She was one of hundreds of people that flocked to the area to work there over the summer. A man by the name of Flora Stevens also worked at a Concord. By 1975, they were married. On August 3rd of 1975, Robert took his wife Flora to the hospital. 2 hours later, when he came to pick her up, she was nowhere to be found. He soon learned that she never even turned up for her appointment at the doctor's that day. Robert reported her missing to the police. Seasonal workers often disappeared because they went back home suddenly. But despite that fact, Flora's case was taken seriously. In 1985, Robert passed away. He never did find out what happened to his wife. 13 years later, the Concord shut its doors. In September of 2017, a skeleton of a woman was discovered in Orange County. It was thought that it might be Flora's. The case was assigned to Detective Rich Morgan. He found out that Flora had no living relatives. This meant that they couldn't determine whether Flora's DNA matched the DNA they found. The detective did however notice that there was someone using Flora Stevens' social security card number, a woman by the name of Flora Harris who lived in an assisted living facility in Massachusetts. He also noticed that this woman had the same birth date as Flora Stevens. On October 24th, he made his way to the assisted living facility. He showed her a photo of Flora Stevens before she disappeared. The woman simply said, "Me." When showed a photo of Robert, she said his name. He then lastly showed her a photo of the Concorde back in its glory days, and she started to smile brightly. Flora Stevens was finally found after 42 years. Sadly, the 79-year-old has dementia and can't remember how or why she disappeared in the first place. Steve Carter was adopted at the age of 4 from an orphanage in Honolulu. He was adopted by a great family, and when he grew up, he married and considered having children of his own. He started getting curious as to who his real parents are. One day he clicked on missingchildren.com. Steve found an age progression image of a missing person by the name of Mark's Panama Moriarty Barnes. He instantly recognized the photo as himself. Stephen volunteered for a DNA test and learned that he was in fact a missing child. His biological father, Mark Barnes, reported him missing more than 3 decades earlier. His mother, Charlotte Moriarty, took him for a walk and never returned. When he was 4 years old, Charlotte gave him up for adoption, and so he became Steve Carter. I think it's pretty incredible how he found himself. When Robert McDonough was 73 years old, he disappeared in Maine. He suffered from dementia. The search for him started almost immediately. Sniffer dogs were sent to search the surrounding woods. They even went as far as using an infrared helicopter. The next morning, a news crew was setting up to start reporting on the disappearance of Robert. Then suddenly an old man walked into the view behind the reporter. The man introduced himself to them as Robert McDonough. Luckily, Robert was in good health when he was found and only had a few scrapes. It is thought that he simply wandered off from his home and walked into the woods. Robert doesn't remember where he went or why he wandered off to begin with. His family promised to keep a closer eye on him and even said they are looking into GPS devices to help track Robert's whereabouts. Melvin Uphoff+Jacquelyn Rains-Kracman was dating in 1965. The thing was, both of them were married to other people. Also in 1965, the two of them disappeared from a Nebraska town about a month apart from each other. It turns out the two of them simply ran away together and did not want to be found. There is very little known about this case, since Melvin and Jacquelyn want their privacy. The two of them are still together and living in another state. What I really find upsetting is that Melvin had a 3-year-old daughter when he decided to start a new life with Jacquelyn. The daughter grew up without a father, and she believed he was no longer alive. When questioned, she stated, "I don't know what's worse, finding out my dad was dead, but he'd abandoned his family and has been living a new life.